Welcome to a very special episode of Send Better Emails. Our first ever episode with a guest.
Huge.
We've hit the big time. So we asked someone if they wanted to come on and they said yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you're telling people anyway.
Yeah. It's cost us £1,000. No. So we've got a guest coming on. We've just recorded the episode with him. It's a real treat. So it's Adam Faulkner, content creator, video expert, among a whole bunch of other things. He talks us a little bit through what he does, why he loves what he does, and how he uses humor and creativity to add that something a bit special to his content, and why he encourages other people to do that as well.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was great to chat to him. He spoke very insightfully and honestly about everything from cheap lager abroad to the more kind of fundamental things about the service he actually offers. I think the thing that surprised me the most was just how many parallels there are between the stuff he's talking about when it comes to what makes good video content and the stuff we talk about when it comes to what makes a good newsletter. So it was nice to... It was, I mean, we're all looking for validation, Jamie, and I feel like some of the stuff that we've been harping on about here was validated by Adam's insights, albeit not specifically about newsletters. It still applied.
Yeah, 100%. Super nice chap. As James said, it seems like he always speaks from the soul. Very candid. So yeah, you'll enjoy it. So yeah, without further ado, here's Adam. Welcome, Adam. It's good to have you here.
Hello, Jamie, and hello, James. And my middle name is James. So there's kind of three Jameses on this.
Let's just
podcast.
all refer to each other as James then,
Yeah.
and that will make it easier.
That's fine. That's absolutely fine.
Perfect. So this is a special occasion for us because you are our first guest here on Send Better Emails, and we've spent maybe a little bit of time already with getting the tech to work, which the responsibility falls with the Inbox Club for sure. But we're here, and it's gonna run smoothly from here on out, right?
Well, I want it to. So
yeah, let's manifest that smoothness.
But thank you for having me as your first guest. I feel very honoured and humbled and delighted and extremely grateful. So I was slipping into a kind of old school LinkedIn post there.
Yeah,
Humbled and excited.
Adam, you're a video expert, linked influencer, cyclist.
I would never call myself that.
Okay, cyclist.
Yeah, no, I'll call myself that.
Stand-up comedian.
Yes.
Speaker.
I can speak. Yeah.
Yeah.
With my mouth. Yeah.
Marathon runner.
I've done a few of those.
Yeah. Soon to be father.
That is true. Yeah.
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 And Mr. Beast lookalike.
Interesting.
I don't call myself that one, but people online especially do that. And I think I'm much better looking than him, to be honest.
I would agree with that. I think maybe when you had your moustache situation going on, you were much more similar to Mr. Beast then.
Yeah, he's just got he's not quite as edgy looking, I would say. No, I'm joking. If you're listening, Mr. Beast, well, I don't actually know what his real name is, but yeah, well.
Jimmy.
Yeah, I'm your lookalike.
He's
Jimmy.
he's actually another James, I think.
That is, yeah, it is Jimmy, isn't it? Jimmy, yeah. Okay, well, if I'm not trying to sign up to be like a Mr. Beast lookalike, the old school lookalike kind of agencies. I don't know if that actually might be quite a good one actually, because he's quite big.
Quite famous.
He does listen to this podcast as well.
Yeah, I'm sure he does.
Yeah.
I'll be going to lots of parties. They're like, "Is that Mr. Beast?" And I'll be like, "I'll have to do the voice. I'll have to learn his voice."
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll just be nodding, going, "Yeah,
That's the one."
Okay, well, there's a future in that for me. I can add that to the long list of accolades you gave me, Jamie, which was very kind.
Well, you're welcome. I mean, that was my in-depth research into your LinkedIn profile.
It's all there.
Hurriedly.
It's all there.
Yeah.
Although I don't call myself a LinkedIn influencer.
No. Okay, let's talk about that. Why not?
It just feels a bit self-aggrandizing, doesn't it? And a bit kind of self-congratulatory. Do people say things like that? I also, I'm not a big fan of the influencer tag, not just for me, but I feel like influence. I feel like there's maybe different definitions for these things to different people, but to me, it feels like a group of people who have tried to like aggressively get an audience of people just so they could kind of use it as leverage, which I'm not saying is a terrible thing. I just feel like that in my head, that's what it is, and that's kind of not really my, you know, that's not my ethos. That's not really what I'm trying to do.
Okay, fair. And so, if we went with LinkedIn content creator, does that feel more right?
Well, the funny thing is, a lot of my content is actually kind of taking the piss out of LinkedIn, so it's quite meta, really. It's like I say that it's not just that, but I kind of wake up every day and I just have, well, I even dream about these things, but I just kind of want to make stuff, and I always have. And throughout my whole life, I've always been quite a creative person. And I originally always wanted to be in a band. You know, like I love music, and I've played in about 10 bands, none of which were signed. So fair enough. But I just quite like I just like having ideas and just making them. So I think at the moment it's a great output for me. You know, an outlet and a great place for the output, because I just kind of don't know, I just feel quite free with it. And my marketing strategy kind of changed about 6 months ago, and I just went, oh fuck it, whatever. I'll just go with. Sorry for swearing, but that is literally what just like just make stuff and enjoy it, and I've never felt more liberated by that, to be honest.
Yeah, that's awesome. And swearing is encouraged on the podcast, so don't worry.
Okay, fuck it. Yeah, that's what I meant. Fuck it. Let's just go with it. But yeah, I just on that, just on a serious point, I just find it like I just need to express myself, you know, in the way that I want to express myself, and I just really enjoy just making stuff and being like, right, I'm just going to put that out. It's cathartic. I enjoy it. And then generally, the more I kind of lean into that, the more it seems to, you know, not that this is the most important measurable, but like in terms of engagement and the metrics, it actually works best for me. So it must be something in the alignment of those two things, as in that's what I want to do, and that's kind of what people maybe enjoy. You know, because enjoy is quite a big word for me. Like I believe that, you know, I want to try and enjoy as much as I can about my life, but like if you're going to make stuff, content or whatever it is in terms of under that umbrella, I think you do need to enjoy it, because like the passion that comes across is kind of well received by people, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think, you know, when you talked there about the influencer tag and people who, it's very obvious you have these personalities who are going for that angle, right? And it's a very kind of manufactured experience. And you've done some videos on LinkedIn where you talk about some of these perhaps LinkedIn characters where I think we've got like Harry the Hustler or something, and Philosophical Phil, and some of these other characters that you kind of came up with. Who do you think, who's your least favorite kind of LinkedIn character that you see out there in the wild? And that might be whoever you think is probably the most damaging to people's perceptions of kind of the content game, if that makes sense.
I mean, I try not to wade in too much in terms of like in a serious way, as in like trying to talk about these things, because I don't really mind that much. I think people are just trying to make their way in the world. So my way of, you know, of kind of talking about it is expressing myself through humor, because I just find, you know, like if you've got a little smile on your face while you're doing something, or it's obviously funny, people kind of are more accepting of it, I think. Whereas if you go on, I'm not going to go on a rant, because I want people to just, you know, do what they want to do. I think the kind of, it's not specifically a character, but I think that I think there's a lot of kind of like growth. I don't really like the word hack, but like there's a lot of growth hackers, right? So there's a lot of people who are kind of manufacturing their growth in a certain way, and I don't know the ins and outs of how they're doing it, but I do believe that you can hack that algorithm, because you just can. Like people just figure it out, and then once they figure that out, they can kind of. I think the one thing I do believe, and this has just come to mind because you've asked it, but like I think there's like increasingly less personality on there from actual people, and I think that's quite sad. And I think, because that's what I like, do you know what I mean? And I think there's a lot of preaching, and I think people sadly they might kind of gravitate towards what someone else's success is, because they think that's the way that they're going to get there as well. And I think that people just get a bit confused. So they kind of, rather than maybe sharing what they are passionate about or really value or truly believe in, they're like, well, what's going to convert well? And that's the stuff that I don't enjoy that. Do you know what I mean? And I think the thing is, all social media just ends up eating itself in terms of each platform, because in a way, what happens is it just becomes more about the people talking about the platform and how to get to this point with it, whereas actually that's not as interesting. But people know that that's the thing that kind of I kind of got quite bored of my own feed and some of the things that I was saying, because I was like, I'm not expressing myself in the way that I want to. So I think what I would say is I like it when people just kind of almost take a stand and are quite a bit more courageous and actually stand for something. Do you know what I mean? Rather than trying to manufacture this growth, because it takes as long as it takes, really. Do you know what I mean? And I think that for me, it's like I'm not strategizing massively about it anymore. I'm just kind of going, okay, there's like an axis, a kind of graph of passion versus strategy, and for me, I need to be more in passion than I do in strategy. I'm not saying that like I don't have any strategy. In a way, I'm saying that is my strategy, but I have to just. Some people might want a bit more strategy than passion or whatever, but I think all strategy, no passion is not a great place to be. And I think that, to be honest, I think there's a lot of material or content on there at the moment, which it might have been, you might be using a bit more of ChatGPT. Not that I mind that, but there's a lot of stuff I see is kind of, it doesn't really say that much, and it's stuff that you could just go on the internet and just search for. There's not enough of perspectives from unpersonality. If I think people are maybe not leaning into that as much, and I think that's a bit sad.
I think that's certainly something, James, that you're pushing people to do daily in newsletters, right? Is how, as opposed to just saying stuff, how about we offer an opinion on something, or something that can't be Googled, and something, James, you always talk
about. You can see that's it. If you can see that people are kind of, you could just Google it. That's it. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, all good.
Exactly. No, you're right though, Jamie. That's exactly what I was about to say, is that, we're looking for the stuff you can't Google, the stuff that ChatGPT can't spit out. And generally that does tend to be like the lived human experience, as opposed to, kind of thought leadership in the conventional sense. Like, sure, do some thought leadership, but put your individual spin on it, draw from your experiences. It makes for way better content. Adam, I've got a question, Jamie, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I've got a question because I find your emphasis on humor really interesting. It's something, again, that Jamie and I talk about in terms of what you ought to be doing with your newsletters and how you deliver content. And if you can be humorous, that's like a really great way to differentiate yourself from the rest of the noise. By the same token, one common criticism of that approach is, well, you're either funny or you're not. And if you're not funny, then that's not an option that you have. What would you say to that? Like, is there any truth in that? And if you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking, oh yeah, maybe I want to make my LinkedIn content a bit funnier, is there advice that can be actioned? Is there a way that you can learn to be funnier when it comes to your content? Or are you sort of doomed to be unfunny or blessed to be funny, and that's just how it is?
I mean, that's a question on humor and full stop, isn't it? And then applying it to different areas of your life. I mean, I think, just, it's going to sound like I'm a politician giving a very diplomatic answer, but I think everyone is funny in their own way. I think everyone is creative. Like my girlfriend, not that I'm actually going to very much compliment her here. She doesn't have a creative job, but I know she's really creative. What I'm saying is everyone has the ability to do these things. And I think it's about what your kind of identity is and what you kind of, almost like asking yourself those questions. It's like, what are those kind of, values that you attach to that? So for me, like, creativity and humor and creativity are very high for me. So like, I'm like, well, it feels like a big part of who I am and how I interact with people. I don't just mean on LinkedIn, or I know you mentioned an email. Like, I felt like I was holding myself back from that, because I think that it was the it was the kind of asking that question of what does professional look like? Do you know what I mean? And I think everyone struggles with that, because it's kind of like, well, I need to sound professional, but then it just kind of gets, if I'm not saying professional's wrong, I'm saying for me that language isn't quite right. And I've, over the years, through creating many pieces of content and emails and everything, I just get quite bored of it. And but that's me. And so for other people, it's asking yourself, like, does this, it doesn't have to be like I'm trying to write a comedy sketch or like a comedy, some stand-up comedy. Obviously I do that, but that's what I want to do. And that will work really well for me, because I'm like that in general life. I'm not saying you need to just suddenly, change gear and be like, right, I'm just going to do loads of funny stuff. But like, I think that you would ask yourself, like, is this bland, what I'm saying, or is it just kind of like a bit nothing, or is it quite neutral, or is it quite middle of the road? Because I don't think anyone needs to be middle of the road. Like, I think you can kind of, for example, I'm not a super earnest person. If people are really earnest with me, then I'm maybe it's some sort of mechanism in me, but like, I'm like, oh, there's probably a joke in there. Like if people are really earnest, that's absolutely fine, because that kind of speaks to their soul. And I'm going a bit deep, but it's not humor or not humor. It's like what, but it is kind of holding a mirror up to yourself about how you talk to people and kind of how you interact with people. It might be that some people go, a bit deeper, or they're just, as I said a couple of seconds ago, a bit more earnest. Like, I just think it's about finding that connection between your humanness and then other people's humanness. And my connection is probably humor. I'm not saying I'm the funniest person that ever lived. I'm not saying I don't do straight up things sometimes, but like my instinct is to go towards the humor. So I would say to anyone, is it humor? Is it being, earnest, really human? Is there another creative way that you can show that? Do you know what I mean? Like, because people are getting bombarded with information. So if you're just, I liken it to like the popular kids will do something at school and then everyone else falls into line. Like, people just do not have time to pick out, like, maybe there's something more to that person who's being quite average, but they just don't have time for it. And I'm not saying people are average. I'm just saying, I think if you're using, if you're speaking to someone and you can see the whites of their eyes, like, you've got their attention. But like, if you're talking about other things, you're really fighting for their attention. And I feel that, I'm sure you both feel that every day, where you're like, I'm going to be really picky about what I give attention to. And just because you put a post out or send an email doesn't mean someone's gonna read it, you see. So I think, does that answer your question?
Beautifully, yes. And we can definitely relate to the battle for attention.
Yeah, I think, and having people's attention is something you can never take for granted either. And that's why, it's something that we have to take seriously, especially, especially if someone's subscribed to a newsletter, for example, right? They've expressly given you permission to land in their inbox. So that's something that we take quite seriously as a responsibility. And you mentioned there, Adam, about how you felt liberated once you kind of found, the way in which you wanted to communicate and create content. And I guess that comes like a double-edged sword. If you find that liberation in creating the kind of content that resonates with yourself more, that you're kind of nailing your colors to the mast a little bit there, and you're finding your crowd and you're attracting people to you because you're creating this more human content. Would you say that's a fair summary?
Yeah, I would say that's a fair summary, yes. Because I think we all take inspiration or borrow inspiration. Some people copy, some people steal, whatever it is from other places. It is there. Like, we cannot. It's actually a real compliment to take inspiration from. I'm a big music lover, so like, you can't be like, that sound is completely original, because it's not, because they've taken it from different places or that have come before or whatever. So I think that, and I like the word, I know I've used it and then used it back at me, but I really like the word liberated, because I genuinely do feel liberated. I'm just like, do you know what? People will tell me, there's a lot of information. People go, right, this is how you construct this, or this is the best ways, best practices. And when I see that or hear it or observe it, it makes me want to not do it that way. Because if you're just creating a long line or a large group of mini clones that are doing that, I don't want to be in that group. Because it's kind of like, well, how's that? It's not all about standing out. It won't stand out as much. I liken it to like, there's like a pool, and then there's loads of people in the pool splashing around. It's like, I'd rather just go to this one where there's a bit quieter and I can just kind of do my thing. But I do think that's the conversation about information, and people are like, kind of, that's what I kind of now gravitate away from, when people are like telling me how to do stuff or preaching on how to do this, and it's like, I don't agree with it. Like, I'm to be a father soon. I've never been a father before. I'm just very much looking forward to it, and it's like, I just have to figure it out. But like, do it with courage, and I'm a trier. I'm a doer. Like, I always do stuff. I always try. I don't always get it right, but I'm just much happier in that space, and I think other people will be too. But I think the fear of rejection or looking silly or getting it wrong or whatever, it does hold people back. And but I do think it's not just about an online audience, but you really earn people's attention, like and it takes people different lengths of time, but you can't do it in a day. It might be that you do something quite crafty or clever or creative to get someone's attention, but that doesn't mean that they're going to give you attention for the rest of time. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's like, but then I also don't think people talk about consistency. It's a bit of a buzzword. I mean, consistency will get you to a lot of places. Athletes aren't where they're at because they're inconsistent. You have to be consistent, but I also think that like alone it is not enough just to be like, well, I send out an email. And no, I'm not saying I'm just saying one sends out a newsletter every week. Well, I've done that every week for a year. It doesn't. If it just gets lost, if you're not looking out for it, then, and you're not looking out for that person, and you're not interested, and you don't want to spend time with that person, they're not going to read that email. It doesn't matter what's in it, in my opinion. So yeah, that's how I see it.
Yeah, and you're right. Consistency alone won't work, and that's why these athletes that successful aren't just training consistently, but they also have coaches, right?
Yeah, of course.
Helping they're helping them get it right and all of that stuff. And you're right. You can't, just like I say, you can't take it for granted that you will always have someone's attention, right? And that's something that we preach about quite a bit. Is about the building a reputation for creating good content. Because if you all of a sudden, you've got a bad reputation for sending bad content or whatever, and then all of a sudden you're sending good content, that might not matter because you've got this reputation for not sending very interesting content. So that's an important part. Some lighter-hearted questions, Adam.
That's okay.
That I wanted to run by you. So at 18, you were pulling pints in a bar. I want to know what the name of the bar was, and I want to know what your perfect pint looks like.
I've worked in quite a few bars actually.
Have you?
So that would have been at uni, and that would have been at the it would have been at the university. No, it was like how they have those. I don't know if they still have them. No, they do. The O2 academies.
Oh yeah,
at university. So it would have been Liverpool O2 Academy. God, it would have been. They won't have had they won't have had any crafts back then. So it will have literally been like Foster's, probably.
Foster's,
Carling. Like that. Not that I enjoy that,
no.
But that's what I will have been pulling, or a strong bow.
Did you get snake bites at Liverpool Uni?
We did, yeah.
Yeah, that was the big thing at UEA. Was you had a pint of, I think it was Strongbow actually, with blackcurrant on top.
Yeah, we had that. Yeah.
Yeah,
and they were like £1.
Those are the days. Those are the days.
Well, I do also think you make yourself sound old. I'm 38, but like it's not that long ago, 20 years, but it was so much cheaper. I'm not trying to get into a big conversation about university, but when I went, it was £1,000 a year, and now it's £9,000 a year. And when honestly, it wasn't even like, oh my God, it's tonight. The pints are £1. It was like they were £1 quite a lot of the time, to be honest. You could go out on a tenner, easy. I feel for people now. You need a lot more money. I mean, obviously, I still exist.
Yeah.
I still need money, but I'm just saying, like, as a younger person, it's like, well,
yeah, it's crazy. And well, that's why you see younger people not going out to drink as much anymore, because your £1 snake bites don't exist anymore.
no. And like a shot was £1.
Yeah.
Like I was in a pub yesterday, and it was like a Jaeger bomb was like, not that I had one, but I just look.
Yeah.
I could have had one. I didn't. And it was like £6, and I was like, what?
Yeah, that's mad.
£6. They're like, don't worry though, 3 for £15. And I was just like, wow, you're really treating us. Do you know what I mean?
All right, what's the perfect pint look for you now? What's your drink of choice, Adam?
I'm a big pale ale drinker, actually.
Okay.
I really like quite bitter. I like quite bitter pints, but then I also quite like a fruity one. So
Okay.
I've definitely been swept up, in the kind of craft beer scene. So when I go to a pub now and I'm like, they might not have it, I'm a bit like, oh, okay. But then if I'm away on holiday, I like the local, what I call holiday lager, and it's just like, I don't care I'm just like, yeah, I'll have that. Just have that. But
I'll tell you what.
Go on, James. Sorry, mate.
I tell you what's mad is when you go on holiday to like Benidorm and they'll have like the local lager, the holiday lager, as you say, and it's like €2 a pint.
Yeah.
And then you come back to the UK and 6 months later, the like artisanal pub around the corner is selling it for £7.70 a pint, and you're like, hang on a minute, that's the holiday lager. That's the Madri I was drinking in Benidorm, which has now been rebranded as this premium lager. It's crazy. Yeah,
I'm heading to Porto next week, and I'm going to be having holiday lager there. I'm going to be on the Superbox when I'm in Porto. I'm looking forward to that.
It just tastes better, doesn't it, when you're there?
Yeah.
And you're just there, and you're like, yeah, go on, I'll just have another one. And I went to the Philippines last year, and they had this beer called, I mean, basically, because the Philippines was not owned. Sorry, that sounds really weird. It was very under Spanish. It was very connected to Spain, right? Yeah. And so their beers are all basically owned by San Miguel still. And I say still, they're owned by San Miguel. And they had this beer that I'd never had before called Red Horse, and it was like it really packed a punch. Cause I think it was like 6.7%, but it was like it was like £1, and it was just like, wow, this is great. I like this, and I haven't been able to find it here. It will be here somewhere, but I just whatever they've got. Go with that. That's I actually, to be honest, I actually prefer that because it kind of places you in a time and a space, and I just prefer it. Whereas here, you're just like, not that I'm going to get into a huge rant about the tyranny of choice, but there's just too much choice. Everyone has too much choice. I'd rather just be given a Red Horse in the Philippines and like, yeah, great, let's have that.
Sounds awesome. Red Horse in the Philippines. I'll be sure to check that out. Maybe they've got £1 snake bites and £1,000 a year tuition over the Philippines too. Still.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Red Horse will be in a pub in Norwich before you know it, Jamie. You look out for it. It's £7.20 a pint.
Yeah, you're probably right. All right. So, Adam, you were, I think we're going to 20 now. So 2 years later for you, you're working in a bookmaker's.
Oh God, yeah.
What I want to know is
Ladbrokes.
Okay, that was question number one. And my next question was, do you have any betting tips for the Europa League final on Wednesday?
I support Liverpool, so I hate Man United, but I can see Man United winning that.
Okay.
I'm not going to say, is that a betting tip? I don't know. It's just a hunch.
Yeah.
Wow.
My betting tip is, I'm just going to say, my betting tip is like, don't work at a book. Basically, when I worked at the bookmakers, so I was like 18, 19, 20, it was like summer job. And I'd work there and I'd do quite a lot of hours, and I'd get quite like, it's just on a sad note, it's actually quite depressing working in them, genuinely. And because people just come in with their dull money and then lose it, and you just be like, I don't really want to take this off you, but they're like, no, I want to bet, and then it's not my response anyway.
Yeah.
But what I ended up doing was, because people come in and they go, I've got a tip for you, and you're like, obviously you're like, okay, what is it? And they'd be like, this one at this time, let's just call it Red Horse at 4 o'clock, you know, at Kempton, and you'd be like, well, I'm here at 4 o'clock, and that might make my day a bit more interesting. So you can't bet in the shop or for the company you work. You can't do that. So I couldn't put a bet on at Ladbrokes. But obviously with betting shops, there's always you go on where there's a betting shop, there's always another betting shop.
Yeah.
From another company. So you go, okay, there's William Hill over there. So I would go, they'd come in and give me tips. I'd go and put them on my lunch, and then I'd just sit there and I'd be like, and it was like brilliant because sometimes I'd win like quite a lot of money while I was working. And I was just, when I say a lot, I mean, you know, I'd put like a fiver on this horse and I'd win like 60 quid. And I was like, it's brilliant. Got paid. But that got quite, I could, not that I was addicted, but what I'm saying is I got quite into that. So I was like, well, I need to put my bets on for when I'm working. And then over time, I was like, some days I wouldn't win as much or anything. And you're just kind of like, okay, that was a bit of a sad because I've not got paid for that.
Yeah.
You know, so do you know what I mean? Like, well, anyway.
That is a good way to make the shift go. I mean, James, you've always made your shifts go quicker by just betting on shift anyway, but to do it whilst you're working in a betting shops.
It was fun for a bit, but I realised I wasn't putting as much money away as I was. Yeah. I was, because it is, you know, it makes it sound like I've got some sort of really sad, dark addiction story, but it wasn't that bad. But it was just a bit like, okay, I need to start doing this.
Yeah. Don't shit where you eat.
Yeah. Yeah, I was shitting where I was eating.
Yeah.
I really was.
Or at least 50 metres down the road at William Hill was where.
It was close enough. But you could probably see the shit from where I was. So, it was just not advisable. But gambling it's not a great. People can't be. The sad thing is they just can't be trusted to just do it responsibly, and yet that's all they talk about. Yeah, that's what's really sad about it. It's like, don't just, as long as you do it responsibly, but then you can bet anytime anytime you like, you know, on anything you like. And it's just kind of like the sad thing that I would see was those fixed betting odds terminals were the worst, because people would just come in and just be like feeding cash into them, betting on like virtual stuff, you know, playing roulette. And you know, I actually once saw, because I'd watch it, a person come in at 9:30 a.m. They kind of got up to about $2,000 on this machine, went down to about 20 quid, and then somehow got back up to 5-6 grand. And I was just like, he was in there for 8 hours, and I was just like, wow.
Did he walk away?
He eventually did, yeah, but he was in there for 8 hours, and I was just like, he has walked away with money, but he's also like, what is this? And the sad thing was when people would lose all their money and they'd come and beg you to give it them back, and I was just like 18, 19, I'm just going, I can't give you that. But then the tough lady who was the manager, who you know, we didn't get on that well, but she was a very tough talking person, and she was like, it was almost like, you've made your bed, you know, lie in it. And I was just like, yeah, but also anyway.
A bit of compassion won't go amiss.
Yeah, but it's not a compassionate place.
No, I can imagine.
Ladbrokes betting shop.
So talking of lack of compassion, another thing I found whilst digging through Adam Faulkner's LinkedIn page was you were robbed in Peru. I want to know that story, but I also want to know what it taught you about B2B sales.
Do you know what? I don't know if you've been to Peru, but it's great. Yeah, I'd recommend it. Have you been?
No, never.
Okay. It's a great country. It's not as big as the other ones, and it's got quite a mix and diverse of stuff that you can do. Anyway, so I've been there for about a month, and I was literally, this is the day I was coming back, and my friends had gone on a different flight, so I was just kind of like hanging around. So I went to the beach, and I just sat on this wall, and I'm just going to whiz through this because it's quite a ridiculous story. But I sat on this wall, and then basically I had my bag next to me, and then like these lads just kind of ran up to me and then just grabbed the bag and ran off. But the annoying thing is it had my passport in, and I was basically needing to go to the airport. Like, as in that day, I was like, oh shit, and I was running after them, and I lost them. And I didn't have a t-shirt on. I was just in a pair of shorts, and I was just like, okay, how do I, you know? And I basically ended up going to the police station. You know, I nearly got the flight somehow by going to the police station, getting a police report, going to the embassy, but I was just a bit late, so then I had to go the next day. But it was just kind of like, do you know what? I was just annoyed. The funny thing, I don't have it to hand, but the passport picture in my passport is actually taken from that day when I had to go and get some passport pictures to get an emergency passport.
Wow. Okay.
To come back, so I look really annoyed because I genuinely am. I'm literally like, because it's just so annoying. It's just so annoying when someone robs you. What does it teach you about B2B sales? It's I don't know. Probably don't put your passport in your bag.
Yeah.
I've never done it since.
No.
Like it's quite exposed. Honestly, like I now keep my passport like, I don't know, just always. I mean, to be honest, if someone wants to rob you, they're going to rob you. Like I got kind of not robbed, but in Spain, in Madrid, was it Madrid? Yeah, Madrid got kind of robbed once, and some guy came up to me and he was kind of like, I was a bit drunk. I was with a couple of people, and they were kind of like pretending to play football with me, and they kind of put his arm around me. I was like, it's a bit weird, and then he basically shimmied my wallet out of my pocket. So I was like, I was a bit drunk. I was like, I'm not having this. So I was like, ran after them, kept running, lost them, and then I saw them, and I was just like, I'm just gonna go up to them and go, give it me back. And there was a group of 4 of them, but there was 2 when they kind of robbed me. Anyway, basically, I was really annoyed. Kind of went up to them, started shouting at them, and then 2 of them, one of them hit the other one. And I was like, what is going on here? And it turns out that 2 of them were undercover police. And then they basically were like, here's your wallet. And they were like, how much was in it? And I didn't know. I couldn't remember. So I said €200. But I actually think I didn't have that much. So
Okay.
I actually think I made money out of that. But
Wow.
people will try and rob you, But
Yeah,
it's like,
you Uno reversed the robbery in that situation.
I was like, I've made money out of it. I didn't mean to do it like that. I just think I just said a number. But people will try and rob you.
Yeah.
To be fair, you deserved an admin fee for the effort you had to go to in retrieving your wallet.
Yeah.
Like that's time and effort out of your day.
I was running as well. I was running around. Like it was quite. It's just annoying, isn't it? It's just annoying when people they like to do that. Yeah.
Did the marathon training come after you realizing I've been robbed twice now and tried to run after people and lost them? So now I need to train for marathons so I can catch them next time.
Yeah, I've never been the fastest, but I will keep going.
Okay.
Yeah. That's how humans used to hunt,
Yeah, just keep going until they're knackered, because you're not going to outrun a cheetah. Or not that I don't think they get them, but maybe
like a gazelle.
A gazelle. They just wait till they're knackered, and then you'd be like, "Look, I've been training for this, so I've got the stamina. You've got the speed."
Yeah.
That's smart.
Ever heard of CrossFit?
Yeah,
that's a B2B. There's a B2B sales lesson there somewhere about patience.
Yeah. I mean, you're just giving me lots of material here, lad.
Would be remiss of us if we didn't mention at some point during our podcast, which is entitled "Send Better Emails," newsletters. So, from your standpoint, Adam, and we joked about this before we press record about you would always answer things honestly when you saw them from any standpoint, and I think this would be an interesting conversation. But you have a newsletter, and you posted about this newsletter on LinkedIn a little while ago. And LinkedIn did that great thing where you put a link in the caption and it suppresses your post for you, which is great.
Yeah, I knew that was going to happen. So don't worry.
So talk to me about newsletters. Do you like running a newsletter? Do you see the value in it?
You know what, I do. And just one first point is the irony of that they don't like links, but it's called LinkedIn, isn't it? And they don't like links. They do not like links.
Well, they don't like links out, so that's why.
But if you put a link into LinkedIn, they're all right with that.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Somehow there's a way of getting to this.
Yeah.
Getting them to where you want through the link. Anyway. I do, and my experience is maybe 2.5 years ago, I started a newsletter for kind of freelancers. And that was going quite well, actually. I started it and then I would do it every week. And I did it for maybe about 1.5 years. And then I kind of started thinking, I don't really want to. The reason I stopped doing it is because I don't really want to talk about that, as in that topic, anymore.
Sure.
So that kind of, but I enjoyed it while it lasted, and I enjoyed the process of it, and I enjoyed kind of growing it. It's kind of like, it's quite fun, isn't it? Like it's for some reason the subscribers to that mean more, don't they? Because it not well, that was my feeling on it. It was like they might not all read them all, but they have to really want to subscribe to it. Whereas I think on social media, for example, you can just follow or connect, and there's less. You know, you're not having to put as much into the act. So it's nice to see that number go up. But I stopped doing it, and then I took a break from it because as in having a newsletter, because I was like, what do I want the newsletter to be? Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think that's where it's brought me to today, which is like, my business is a video production business, and I think that video will always be and just grow in terms of, it's not a platform, it's a medium. And I think that people will just use more video more and more in different ways and different stuff. So I'm happy to actually go in on that and actually help people make better videos. And I've only just started it, just to be clear, you know, a while ago, very recently. And I'm just putting together what I want to actually talk about. But I feel like I can talk about that topic. So I've genuinely been thinking about doing another newsletter for a while, but I didn't want to go all in on something that I didn't really want to talk about. And that would be I'm almost asking you here, because I don't want to commit to something if I don't feel like, you know what I mean? I'm going to enjoy doing it.
Yeah, for sure. I think, you know, we took a couple of things there. You spoke about how it means more to have the subscribers as well. And I think part of our philosophy here at the Inbox Club is that we reckon that, you know, one email subscriber is worth 10 social media followers, and other people in our space will even put it at 100 to 1, which we don't necessarily subscribe to. But, you know, so you're right there. And I think the other thing is, you know, you've got to talk about something. You've got to have some kind of proposition for the newsletter that you feel strongly about, that, you know, but it's part of your funnel, right? And it's in the middle part of your funnel that comes after social media, and it's about nurturing and converting from there. And you know, that's generally what we're kind of helping people to do. Nice.
I do think it's like I know you're saying it's middle funnel, social media is, you know, maybe top of funnel, but I really need to enjoy the things I'm doing. Like I don't want to. I know people go, well, you know, sometimes things aren't enjoyable, and I'm like, well, going to the dentist isn't enjoyable.
Yeah. Like,
I hate that, but I'll do it. Whereas for my business and my life, if I'm making decisions and have choice, I'm not going to just do something just because. I'll just find another way. But I do think that, you know, I see them quite similar, even though they're, as in content and media on social media and emails. I appreciate they are different, but I need to enjoy them.
Yeah.
I don't want to just be like, well, okay, consistency says, if you do this, like, I don't want to be popping up in people's inboxes, you know, with some half-assed job, just because that's what people do. Because if everyone has a newsletter, then it doesn't make it massively special. I'm not saying that, like, that's why you need to find your own way, I guess, of doing it. And those subscribers are worth quite a lot because they choose to be there. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to kind of more delving into this topic for me, which is like, I love making content. I make a lot of videos, so I'm like, you know what, it's a good way of me, I don't know, kind of passing some of that on to people and maybe entertaining them in their inbox. Because I sell without selling. I'm not a seller. I don't like buy this. I believe people will do stuff if they want to do it, because that's what I'm like. So that's the kind of tribe that I want to have, really. And if it helps them to make better videos or more creative videos or more funny videos or whatever, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, nice. I'd definitely say, you know, my 2 cents here, Adam, would be treat it as a challenge, an interesting and fun challenge, and maybe this is what you need to kind of keep you engaged. Is, you know, you are used to creating content, video content primarily, funny video content. It's a very different challenge to create funny written content, and it requires a different approach. I'm sure you would absolutely smash it based on your LinkedIn. But I think extending that to the newsletter is one way that you can stay engaged with the process of creating this newsletter. Is, you know, okay, every time I write a newsletter, I'm going to make it funnier than the last one. And of course, it's going to be helpful. But I think if I was subscribing to your newsletter, I would expect it to be funny. I'd expect that to be the principal kind of language of the newsletter. But also, like, don't try to bite off too much. It would be my other thing. People generally don't have a huge amount of time in their inbox these days, and Jamie and I always talk about when we're sending newsletters that we want to be valuable, we're sending recreational emails. This is the recreational side of the inbox, which is getting less and less time. Anyone receiving your newsletter is going to have emails that they absolutely must get to by the end of the day. They're going to have things that they need to reply to that are associated with their job and their obligations in life. And so whatever you send them is going to be like that small oasis in an otherwise busy day full of boring obligations that they have to fulfill. And so, don't expect that they're going to have 10 minutes to read like a really well thought out essay on creating great videos.
I appreciate that.
And so, I think funny small bites is what I would probably want from a newsletter, which, let's face it, is talking about a very different medium in video.
Yeah. And do you know what? I'm just quite honest. I'm quite honest about it. Like, it might not be the newsletter that completely works for me, as in, when I say works, I mean, like, it might not be the one that, and if it doesn't, I'll just do another one. I'm not afraid to just. I'm not afraid. It's not ripping it up and starting again. It's just going, okay, right, I've learned from that. I've learned something about myself firstly, and then I've learned something about that because I think the struggle I've had is that I have multiple interests, and I find that quite. I say difficult. It's great because I'm interested in multiple things, but I think finding a topic or a theme or whatever, something that I want to hang my hat on in a newsletter, because I don't want to just be like, hey, it's me, here's an update in my life. So, right, Sunday I ran the half marathon with my partner. She's pregnant and I'm very proud of her. Like, I don't want to do that, And then I went to the pub. I had a pale ale. Like, how was your weekend? That's not what I want to do. Some people might do that, but it's just not something that I want to do.
Yeah.
I appreciate people's time. And I think that, like, just I actually keep in, I don't know how many newsletters you're subscribed to. I keep some of them there, even if I won't read them, because I'm like, just how I would not do it. Do you see what I'm saying? Because people are like, I'm like, wow, look at how much stuff you've put in this.
I love the idea that you just have like a shrine to mediocrity in your inbox.
No, I do.
It's like a special folder for shit emails.
And sometimes I'm somehow subscribed to them. I'm like, I don't even remember subscribing to them. Yeah. But here's what I've been up to. I was like, I don't care, to be honest. But I respect people. I want them to do well. So I'm not naming names going, this is shit, because I'm not brilliant at newsletters.
Yeah.
It's a different medium. It's a different art form. So I respect people trying.
I think so one way we'll tie up soon, by the way, Adam, because I appreciate your time as well here. But one thing that we like to view newsletters as well is that you're distilling your audience. So you have this kind of wider, bigger audience, maybe on social media, and then you're distilling it down into your most loyal, or to like a nucleus of kind of super fans, people that are really kind of on your side, who want to hear from you because they've made that explicit value exchange of giving you their data and permission to email them. And I think, what goes hand in hand with that is you giving that audience a distilled and more pure version of you as well. And so you're kind of you're meeting them halfway in that sense, and that social media gets a certain version of you which is still authentic, but the newsletter version gets something a bit extra, something a bit exclusive, a purer version that's a bit more kind of like behind the curtain, if you like. And we talk to content creators and work with content creators all the time, that as we say to them that you've got to save something, or you got to give your newsletter subscribers something that they can't get on social media, or like we said earlier, through Google or whatever. I want to tie up this episode, Adam, and I've really enjoyed having you on, so thank you. What I want to do is talk about just a couple of different kind of founder archetypes, and your on the spot advice for how they can get into doing more video content, and maybe the spin that they put on it, or things that they should bear in mind.
Okay, good challenge.
So I want to start with like a thinky founder. So we have someone who is an overthinker, obsessed with nuance and perfection, and really struggles to press publish once they've recorded a video. What kind of advice would you have for someone like that?
Okay, so my advice to someone who's done it but who's not kind of posting, is that what you're saying? Or
Yeah, so they're obsessed with nuance and perfection, and so they never press publish because they will never think it's quite right or quite good enough to put online.
It's really, I find things like this, saying something like that about that quite difficult, because like I have such a just try attitude that like when people don't, I'm like, okay, well, it's up to you then. Do you know what I mean? It's like I just can't. It's just like, okay, well, just don't do it then. Like you know, I'm not someone who's going to like really prod at people's pain points and go, do you know what, the cost of inaction here is this. It's like, just do it. Like I think they need, that person like that needs to see that, you know, the kind of the spotlight is not on them, as in no one's really thinking about what they're doing. Everyone's thinking about what they're doing. So I think that it would be, how do I get them to take that step forward and see that it doesn't matter, you know, that much? And maybe, I mean, that's the thing. I think sometimes if someone like that, it might be better to take it out of their hands. Do you know what I mean? Because if you, as in, what I mean is like, if you keep encouraging someone to do it, it's like, and they're still the one that has to take the action, they're probably not going to do it. Do you know what I mean? So it might be that you kind of, I don't know, you kind of have to get someone else to handle the kind of scheduling of that, because then they can't change it. Do you know what I mean? And once they see, the thing is, once people get objective, not subjective, objective validation, they will change their mind, because they'll go, wow, okay, cool, that was great. Do you see someone, you know, and often that comes from, because I always think that like, why are you posting videos? And it's like, for me, like posting videos is like, I probably find it more cathartic and creative, and the process more enjoyable than most people, because not just because I can make them, but because I genuinely really enjoy it. And then the outcome isn't actually a specific thing, because often I get asked to do something which I haven't even thought of, and that's where the objective kind of validation comes in. But I think that like when people see that, when they see that objective kind of validation come in, they'll change their mind. But they have to just kind of look. The internet is littered with people going, take action now, take action now. It's like, it's not bad advice. It's just like, do you know what? Like, I'm not going to spend my life trying to convince people that, like, do you know what? If you actually do something, it's going to benefit you quite a lot. Whereas if you sit there thinking about it, but I feel like everyone has this kind of paralysis.
It's certainly common.
It is common. It is common. But I do understand where people start, because I think I've just had years of trying, you know, like I've gone not against the grain. I don't mean it like that. Like I cycled to Japan once and my parents were like, don't do that. And I was like, well, I appreciate your concern, but I'm going to do it. And now they tell everyone like, my son did this. And I'm like, look, if you just honestly, like, there is no, I do understand people's kind of maybe slight hesitance in this day and age, because I'm a bit slightly concerned about the cancel culture that's going on, because people are like almost trying to get people cancelled for not very much. And I'm like, what? It's even seeping into comedy, which I actually do myself. And I'm just like, So I do understand people's cost. They're thinking, if something this happens, what's going to happen to me? But I do think that the only way you get anywhere is by, you know, trying. And I'm not saying you should seek to fail. No one wants to fail. I don't want to fail, but I accept that I might do. So I think that, I would, the overthinker needs to how do we find a way to get them to just see that a little bit of action is better than just sitting there thinking about it.
Nice. Okay. And then another founder here who maybe perhaps is in a business, or they're a leader in the business, and their objective or subjective view of what they do is that this is what I do is boring. What our company does is boring. You know, there's not much to talk about. You know, and that's why I don't do video.
I think they're the ones that actually have the most scope to do something a bit left field, because no one's people are like, that they'll give them kudos for that, because it's like, you almost have to, I think what we were talking about before about the identity part, and it's like, look, we are boring, or so I don't, maybe you didn't say boring, but it was kind of like some people would see that as like our work is a bit boring, and they're the ones that have got like almost the biggest leap to do, but it's so much more obvious. Do you know what I mean? Whereas like I would say for like very creative or what outwardly looking creative or quite sexy things, it's a bit more like, okay, well, this is what people expect from us. Whereas I think when you're kind of having something that's a bit more like unexpected, that's where the humor and the creativity can come in and just lean into it. Like things like that have got the potential to, not that this is people's goal necessarily, but they're more likely to go viral because it's kind of like, have you seen that thing about that law firm that just did that thing? And it's just like, but the problem is with creativity and humor, you have to, or other elements like that, you have to kind of suspend reality a bit and just go, do you know what? I'm not going to take ourselves too seriously to try and have a go at that. But again, it's like I don't want to have to convince people that they have to do.
Yeah, for sure.
It depends what you want. What's the outcome? Do you know what I mean? That's the thing. It's like if you just want to stay where you are and everything's fine, then you don't need to push too much. But if you're like, I want something to happen here, it's like you're gonna have to try something a bit different.
Yeah, and the last one I wanted to run by you is someone who the I hate personal branding founder who hates the idea of being a content creator or talking on camera. Is this someone that you were like, would you just give up trying to convince them? Because we spoke about that a little bit already. And if so, would you take the view that, doing video isn't for everyone?
Well, I mean, it's not specifically video. It's like you could say some people, things might just be running perfectly the way they want them to. So they don't need to kind of go down that path or that route. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to use social media. You don't have to use video. It depends what you're doing. But I also think that like I'm a kind of a maximizer, as in like I want to maximize my life and the fulfillment of that life. And there's people out there who I don't know, right? Who I've never met, who I might meet, who I might want to meet. And so I just multiply my, almost the kind of tentacles that are out there that are connecting with people. And so I think that, I think talking about personal branding is pretty boring. It's basically like saying, you're a person, and if you talk about yourself and put yourself out there or whatever, then more people will know about. Yeah, it's so obvious, And that kind of whole movement of like personal branding experts, it's like, okay, it's like I don't know. I find I'm not saying I don't technically do it myself or help other people with it, but I'm not a big fan of the term. But I do understand why people would be like, I understand why people don't have time for stuff, but I wouldn't understand why people wouldn't want to maybe, kind of connect. The fact that we live in a time where you can connect with anyone, anywhere, anytime. Like the creative part of my life is I need to do that because I love just making stuff. But the kind of social media part of my life or the online part of my life is like, I'm talking to you now, but I'm just going to go to the park after this. And while I'm in the park, things will be happening because I've got people, whether it be technology, working on my behalf while I'm out. You can't deny that. And I think that also, like, I've met some. I'm here because I met you online. I know I met Jamie a few weeks ago in person, just randomly. But I think that's a beautiful thing. Like, it doesn't have to be about money and return on investment. And I'm not saying they're not good things. I'm a very much people person, so I'm like, okay, wow, I'm so glad I did that because I wouldn't have met this person, and they might have become a client, or they might have become a friend, or they might have become a person of importance to me. And I think that that's how I see it. So it's kind of like, I just, it's about rolling the dice. Do you know what I mean? And I think that, like, I understand people's hesitancy and their kind of reticence with doing video because it exposes you. It's like, do I look like that? Yes. Do I sound like that? Yes. But like that surely means it's a bit harder and it has greater power and greater weight. And that's why I really enjoy video because you know, you actually get to see people say the thing rather than. I'm not saying writing does not. I love writing, by the way, but I think it's brilliant. But you can use both of them, and I think it has. You know, I don't have a statistic to share, but I'm kind of just approximating here. But I think, you know, maybe 95% of people don't really post regularly on LinkedIn. Okay, so 5% do. What of that 5% actually use video? And I'm just like, well, it must be maybe less than 1, maybe 0.5. I'm just like, the numbers are there. Like, people are just like, oh, no, I just don't know. So I put it to the bottom of the list. So that's why I'm a bit confused about it. But so it's not really a statistic thing. It's more of a kind of confidence thing. Because as far as I'm concerned, there must be, I don't know how many hours of footage or videos on YouTube. That's surely harder to crack when you're like, okay, well, there's less people doing it here. That's probably where my strategy comes in. But the passion comes in with I just like making stuff. So I'm in a good space.
Yeah. Awesome. Perfect. Adam, I think that's about it for us. I do have one more question.
Okay.
Did you applaud or boo Trent at the end of the season?
Oh no, I did not boo. I wasn't there.
No,
I was actually quite upset by it. I thought it was very sad, and it certainly ruined that game. But it also just was like, I don't agree with that. It's quite. I think I've seen some people talk about it very kind of because it is a job.
Yeah.
You know, that is his job, and that is a company, an organisation, and you just imagine like being treated like that. If you're like, do you know what, I've given you 20 years, I just fancy a new challenge, and instead of that, you know, instead of being like, I know all the players and the staff have given them a party and stuff, but imagine like just your clients going like, boo, it's just like, it's so weird, but like that's why football fans are weird, because they feel like entitled to be like, you owe us more. He doesn't owe you anything. If anything, as a Liverpool fan, he's brought many 6, 7. Well, he's been there 20 years, but like the last few years have been hugely successful, and he's been pivotal to that. And it's just like you can't blame him for wanting a new challenge. So I didn't agree with that.
Fair. And he's been barred from Top World in Liverpool now as well. I've heard. So.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he's gutted about that.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's always in Pop World.
No snake bites for him.
You might actually get quite a cheap snake bite in there. You don't know. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, Adam, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it, mate. I really enjoyed those insights from everything, to be honest.
Oh, thanks.
From being robbed to running marathons to being a soon to be father, video content, newsletters, all of it. So thank you very much. And
I appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll chat soon.
Thanks for having me on. Cheers.
Cheers, Adam.